Front cover. The Universe as Seeping. A framework for unifying physics, information, and consciousness in the atom, ASAE energy, theory. Update March 24, 2026. Lun Yim. melbourneyim@gmail.com. March 24, 2026. Abstract. This document presents the atom, ASAE energy, ASAE, framework, a unified conceptual model in which all physical phenomena are understood as variations, transfers, and transformations of a single fundamental process called seeping. Seeping is defined as the flow, interaction, and coordination of energy, information, and activity between atomic systems. The framework reinterprets mainstream concepts, from kinetic energy to black holes, from quantum mechanics to consciousness, as different patterns of seeping dynamics. Light is understood as protocol, instructions that trigger seeping responses in atoms. Gravity emerges from collective seeping synchronization. Consciousness arises from highly organized seeping networks. A central innovation of this framework is the proposal that atoms were not produced by a single random event but through mass production in batches, with subtle protocol variations between batches. This reframes the origins of the universe and provides new avenues for understanding dark matter, quantum anomalies, and the nature of consciousness. Contents. Abstract. 17 sections, summary, and Appendix A. Section 1. Introduction. Everything in the universe can be understood as seeping. The flow, interaction, and coordination of energy between atoms. The atom, ASAE energy, ASAE, framework proposes that the diversity of physical phenomena arises from different patterns of a single underlying process. This document elaborates this framework, demonstrating how it provides a unified language for describing motion, heat, electricity, magnetism, light, gravity, quantum phenomena, time, information, and consciousness. Section 2. Fundamental Concepts. 2.1 What is seeping? Seeping refers to the exchange, overlap, or influence of energy, information, or activity between atomic systems. Two types are distinguished. Internal seeping, activity occurring within an atom itself, including intrinsic motion and internal processes. This never completely stops. Interatom seeping, activity occurring between atoms, forming the basis of most observable physical phenomena. Everyday analogy. Imagine a crowd of people. Internal seeping is each person's internal state, heartbeat, thoughts, energy level. Interatom seeping is how they interact, conversations, pushing, dancing, forming groups. The crowd's behavior emerges from these interactions. 2.2 The atom, ASAE energy, unit. Each atom possesses three inseparable aspects that together form a fundamental unit of existence. Table. Aspect. Description. Atom. Physical structure and field configuration. The tangible, measurable form. This is what physics measures. Mass, charge, spin, position. Soul. Intrinsic awareness or subjectivity. The capacity to experience, to be affected, to respond. At the atomic scale, this is minimal, but it exists. AI, operational intelligence or program-like function, the internal logic that guides how the atom engages in seeping. This determines its behavior when interacting. These three aspects are not separate components but different dimensions of the same unified existence. Individually, each atom operates at a small scale. But through interatom seeping, atoms coordinate into larger structures, molecules, crystals, cells, organisms, planets, and beyond. A note on energy. Energy is not a fourth aspect of the atom. Rather, energy is the expression of the AI aspect in action, the activity that arises when atoms engage through seeping, derived from internal seeping, the inherent activity within each atom, and manifested as interatom seeping when atoms interact. In short, atoms have structure, atom, possess awareness, soul, operate with intelligence, AI, and produce energy through seeping. 2.3 Core Principles. Ontological simplicity. One fundamental process, seeping, explains all energy phenomena. A process focus. Energy is what happens, not what is. A relational dynamics. Everything is interaction, not substance. Emergence. Complexity arises from coordinated seeping patterns. Awareness. Atoms possess intrinsic awareness. Consciousness emerges from collective synchronization. A mass production. Atoms were produced systematically in batches with protocol variations between batches. Section 3. Grand Unification Table of Seeping Dynamics. The following tables provide a conceptual bridge between mainstream scientific terminology and seeping-based interpretation. 3.1 Forms of energy as seeping states. Table 1. Energy forms as seeping states. Mainstream form. ASAE description. Kinetic. Seeping through space. Potential. Constrained seeping, poised. Thermal. Chaotic. Multi-directional seeping. Chemical. Engaged. Bonded seeping. Electrical. Coordinated electron seeping. Magnetic. Aligned spin seeping. Electromagnetic. Protocol triggering seeping. Nuclear. Intense internal seeping. Mass. Self-contained seeping pattern. Elastic. Stretched or compressed seeping. 3.2 Energy transfer as seeping movement. Table 2. Energy transfer as seeping movement. Mainstream transfer. ASAE description. Conduction. Seeping synchronization. Convection. Seeping carried bodily. Radiation. Protocol propagation. Work. Seeping imposed. 3.3 Energy transformation as seeping reconfiguration. Table 3. Energy transformation as seeping reconfiguration. Mainstream transformation. ASAE description. Friction. Organized chaotic seeping. Combustion. Bond seeping heat plus protocol. Photosynthesis. Protocol new bond seeping. Electric heat alight. Coordinated chaotic plus protocol. Nuclear. Confined seeping reconfigures. Potential kinetic. Constrained seeping released. 3.4 Key insight. This table suggests a unifying principle. All physical phenomena can be interpreted as variations, transfers, and transformations of seeping dynamics. Section 4. Mainstream energy forms as seeping. 4.1 Kinetic energy. Mainstream. Energy of motion. ASAE. An atom or object in motion is engaged in continuous seeping with its environment, pushing through fields, interacting with vacuum fluctuations, leaving a wake of influence. Motion is seeping through space. Examples. Moving through air. Air atoms are not bound to one another. They move freely but do not strongly engage in seeping with most solid objects. This minimal engagement manifests as low friction. The object moves through air with little resistance. Moving through water. Water atoms are more willing to synchronize with moving objects. They engage in sustained seeping, creating drag. The object loses kinetic seeping gradually to the water. A collision with a wall. When a moving object strikes a wall, object atoms and wall atoms engage in sudden, intense seeping. The organized, directional seeping of the moving object cannot continue. It disrupts into chaotic seeping, heat, emits protocol, sound, and may cause structural seeping patterns, bonds, in both object and wall to break or reconfigure. A gentle landing. When a moving object lands softly on a surface, the seeping engagement is gradual. The object's directional seeping synchronizes with the surface's seeping patterns over time, resulting in a smooth stop. The spectrum of kinetic seeping. Engagement levels and effects. Engagement. Example. Macroscopic effect. Minimal. Object moving through air. Low friction. Easy movement. Moderate. Object moving through water. Drag. Gradual energy loss. Significant. Rolling on solid surface. Rolling friction. Some heat. Intense. Collision with wall. Impact. Heat. Sound. Deformation. Complete. Object bonding to surface. Adhesion. Sticking. 4.2 Potential energy. Mainstream. Stored energy due to position or configuration. ASAE. Two atoms squashed together equals active, constrained seeping. The push-pull is happening now, not stored. Release them, and that same seeping accelerates them. Pattern changes, but the seeping continues. Examples. A stretch spring. The atoms in a stretch spring are pulled apart. They are engaged in seeping across the gap, constantly trying to synchronize. This constrained seeping is what we call potential energy. Release the spring, and this seeping manifests as motion. A lifted object. An object held above the ground has its atoms engaged in constrained seeping with Earth's atoms through gravity. The seeping is happening now. The push-pull between object and Earth is active. Release it, and that same seeping becomes kinetic. A compressed gas. Gas atoms squeezed into a small space are seeping intensely against the container walls. They are confined seeping, constantly pushing. Release the container, and they seeping outward rapidly. Key insight: there is no stored energy. There is only active seeping that is currently constrained. When the constraint is removed, the seeping pattern changes, but the seeping never stops. 4.3 Thermal energy, heat. Mainstream: random atomic or molecular motion. ASAE: chaotic, multi-directional seeping among many atoms. Temperature equals intensity of this collective seeping. Examples: a hot metal. Atoms in hot metal are seeping chaotically, vibrating, colliding, propagating seeping in all directions. This chaotic seeping is felt as heat when touched. A cold metal. Atoms in cold metal are seeping with less intensity. Their movements are more ordered, collisions less frequent. Less chaotic seeping means less heat. Air-ice melting. As heat enters ice, chaotic seeping increases. Atoms that were locked and stable, ordered seeping patterns, crystal lattice, begin seeping chaotically. The structure collapses into liquid. From the atom's perspective, an atom feels temperature as the intensity of seeping from its neighbors. When neighbors seeping chaotically and intensely, the atom is buffeted from all sides. When neighbors seeping gently, the atom experiences calm. 4.3.1 Temperature as seeping activity. Temperature can be interpreted as the collective intensity of interatom seeping. When interatom seeping increases, atoms vibrate more, collisions increase, energy exchange accelerates, higher temperature. When it decreases, atomic motion becomes more ordered, interactions weaken, energy exchange slows, lower temperature. 4.3.2 The limit of absolute zero. A hypothetical zero state would occur when interatom seeping disappears, and only internal seeping remains. This state is impossible in practice because atoms are never perfectly isolated, radiation and fields continuously interact, and measurement introduces additional interaction. 4.4 Chemical energy. Mainstream: energy stored in chemical bonds. ASAE: bonds equals engaged seeping, stable, ongoing push-pull patterns between atoms, shared electron fields. Breaking or forming bonds equals seeping patterns reorganizing. Examples: a water formation, HO hydrogen and oxygen atoms approach. Their electron fields overlap. They find a stable seeping configuration. Two hydrogens engaged with one oxygen. This engaged seeping is the bond. Energy is released as they settle into this stable pattern. A firewood burning, wood contains carbon-hydrogen bonds, engaged seeping. When heated, these bonds break. Carbon and hydrogen atoms reorganize, forming new bonds with oxygen from the air, CO and HO. The reorganization releases intense chaotic seeping, heat, and protocol, light. A battery. Inside a battery, chemical seeping patterns are poised to reorganize. When connected to a circuit, they reorganize, releasing electrons into coordinated seeping, electricity. Key insight: a chemical bond is not a storage container. It is an ongoing activity. Two atoms continuously seeping together in a stable pattern. 4.5 Electrical energy. Mainstream: energy of moving charges or electric fields. ASAE: electrons seeping through a lattice, current, equals coordinated seeping along a path. Voltage equals seeping pressure driving the coordination. Examples: a wire. In a copper wire, electrons normally seeping randomly. When voltage is applied, they begin seeping in coordination, like a crowd starting to walk in the same direction. This coordinated electron seeping is electric current. A voltage is pressure. Voltage is like water pressure in a pipe. Higher voltage equals stronger seeping pressure equals more electrons coordinating in the same direction. A resistance is friction. When electrons seeping through wire, they encounter atoms vibrating with thermal seeping. These vibrations disrupt coordination. Organized seeping becomes chaotic seeping, heat. This is resistance. Water flow analogy, ASAE version. A water molecules equals electrons. A water pressure equals voltage, seeping pressure. A flow rate equals current, coordinated seeping. A narrow pipe equals resistance, disruption of coordination. A heat from friction equals resistance converting organized to chaotic seeping. 4.5.1 Directional coordination of electrons. Electrical phenomena may be interpreted as directionally coordinated interatom seeping, primarily carried by electrons. When a driving influence, potential difference, is applied, Electrons begin to drift in a common direction, local interactions become partially aligned, and a sustained flow of seeping emerges. 4.5.2 Electric current as continuous seeping flow. Electric current may be viewed as a continuous, directed flow of seeping through a material. Each electron interacts with surrounding atomic structures, transferring energy step by step, with coordination propagating through the system. 4.5.3 Resistance as disruption of seeping. Resistance can be interpreted as the breakdown of coordinated seeping into chaotic seeping. During conduction, atomic vibrations interfere with electron motion, local coordination is disrupted, and part of the organized seeping transforms into heat. 4.5.4 Superconductivity as minimal interruption. Superconductivity represents a state where interatom seeping becomes extremely small and highly ordered. Atomic vibrations are greatly reduced, electrons synchronize into collective motion, and electrical flow proceeds with almost no interruption, a near frictionless energy pathway. 4.5.5 Seeping-friendly vs. seeping-resistant. Materials can be characterized by how readily they engage in interatom seeping, their willingness to synchronize and exchange seeping activity. Seeping-friendly materials. Atoms readily synchronize their seeping patterns with neighbors, or allow organized seeping, electrical current, and chaotic seeping, heat, to flow easily. Examples: metals like copper, silver, aluminum, good conductors of heat and electricity. Seeping-resistant materials. Atoms are so tightly engaged in their own stable seeping patterns that they resist external synchronization. They do not easily accept or transmit seeping from neighbors. Examples: wood, rubber, plastic, insulators. Seeping-friendly is relative. A material that is seeping-friendly to one type of interaction may resist another. The degree of friendliness depends on the match between the incoming seeping pattern and the material's intrinsic atomic protocols. 4.5.6 The spectrum of seeping friendliness. Seeping friendliness exists on a continuum, not simply conductor or insulator. Material, seeping behavior, application. Copper, highly friendly. Electrical wiring, coordinated electron seeping flows freely. Graphite, moderately friendly. Battery electrodes, selective seeping pathways. Silicon, conditionally friendly. Semiconductors, friendliness can be tuned. Glass, poor friendly. Electrical insulator, but allows protocol, light, to pass. Wood, seeping resistant. Structural material, thermal barrier. Aerogel, extremely resistant. Superinsulation, minimal heat seeping transfer. Key insight: even resistant materials still seep, just not in ways that align with our intended patterns. Their atoms are engaged elsewhere, in seeping configurations that prioritize internal stability over external exchange. 4.5.7 Engineering seeping interactions. Understanding seeping friendliness allows us to design systems that manage how atoms engage with one another. Practical applications. Application: seeping principle. Activity chemicals in oil. Adding reactive molecules, activity chemicals, to a seeping-resistant base, oil, creates localized seeping hotspots, controlled engagement where needed, insulation elsewhere. Filling light bulbs with inert gas, noble gases, argon, krypton, are seeping resistant to electrical coordination but allow protocol, light, to pass. They resist chaotic seeping, heat, transfer, protecting the filament while letting light escape. Thermal paste in computers. Seeping-friendly paste fills microscopic gaps between CPU and heatsink, creating continuous seeping pathways for heat to flow out. Insulated wiring. Seeping-friendly copper core for electrical flow, wrapped in seeping-resistant plastic to prevent unwanted seeping to surroundings. 4.5.8 Why seeping friendliness matters. Key insight: every engineering challenge involving energy is, at its core, a challenge of managing seeping interactions. Where do we want seeping to flow freely? Where do we want to constrain or block it? What patterns of seeping, coordinated, chaotic, protocol, are we dealing with? Design principles. Match materials to purpose. Use seeping-friendly materials for pathways, seeping-resistant materials for barriers. Consider pattern compatibility. A material friendly to chaotic seeping, heat, may not be friendly to coordinated seeping, electricity, and vice versa. Create hybrid systems. Combine friendly and resistant materials to direct seeping exactly where needed. The art of technology is the art of managing seeping, knowing which atoms to invite to dance, which to leave in place, and how to orchestrate the interaction. 4.6 Magnetic energy. Mainstream, energy in magnetic fields. ASAE, seeping organized into aligned spins, fields of atoms seeping in phase, creating large-scale influence. Examples. A compass needle. The iron atoms in a compass needle have their internal seeping aligned. When placed near Earth's magnetic field, the needle's aligned seeping synchronizes with Earth's collective seeping. The needle turns to point north. A bar magnet. In a bar magnet, billions of iron atoms have their seeping aligned in the same direction. Their individual seeping activities reinforce each other, creating a large-scale seeping field that extends beyond the magnet. This field can influence other magnets or iron objects from a distance. Electromagnet. When electric current, coordinated electron seeping, flows through a coil, it causes the atoms in the core to align their seeping. The flowing seeping creates aligned seeping. Electricity becomes magnetism. 4.6.1 Collective synchronization of atoms. Magnetic phenomena may be interpreted as synchronized inter-atom seeping. When many atoms align their internal states in the same orientation, individual activities reinforce each other, forming a collective directional field. 4.6.2 Magnetic force as cyclic atomic pulse. Magnetic force may be viewed as the result of a cyclic collective pulse of atomic activity. When many atoms synchronize, their internal cycles align, interactions reinforce, and a stable directional influence emerges. 4.7 Electromagnetic energy, light. Mainstream, energy carried by EM waves. ASAE, protocol or information, not seeping itself, but the instruction that triggers seeping in atoms. The energy is the atomic response, seeping, when the instruction is followed. Examples. A radio waves. A radio station emits protocol, radio waves. Your radio's antenna atoms receive this protocol and begin seeping in response, vibrating in sync with the signal. These vibrations are amplified and converted to sound. The energy comes from your radio's power source, not from the radio waves themselves. The protocol just instructs how to seep. A sunlight warming skin. Photons from the sun are protocol. When they strike your skin, atoms in your skin receive the instruction and respond by seeping more intensely, warming up. The sun's energy is not carried in the photons. The photons instruct your atoms to generate heat from their own internal seeping. A photosynthesis. Plants receive protocol, sunlight. Chlorophyll atoms respond by reorganizing their chemical seeping patterns, building sugars. The protocol instructs, rearrange into this configuration. A vision. Light enters your eye. Photoreceptor atoms receive protocol and respond by seeping in specific patterns. These patterns propagate through neural atoms, eventually creating visual experience. Key insight. Light is not energy traveling through space. Light is information traveling through space. The energy appears when atoms receive that information and respond. 4.7.1 Unity of electricity and magnetism. Electricity and magnetism are unified into a single phenomenon, electromagnetism. Within ASAE, this unity is understood as the integration of directional flow and collective alignment of seeping. Electricity seeping in motion, flow. A magnetism seeping in orientation, alignment. 4.7.2 Flow creates alignment. When electrical seeping, electron flow, occurs, moving charges influence surrounding atomic systems, local orientations begin to align, and a magnetic effect is generated. 4.7.3 Alignment guides flow. When magnetic alignment exists, it influences electron motion, constrains and redirects seeping pathways, and flow becomes curved or structured. 4.7.4 Electromagnetic waves as self-propagating seeping. EM radiation can be interpreted as a self-sustaining cycle of seeping. Changing electric seeping creates magnetic alignment, changing magnetic alignment generates electric flow, and the process repeats continuously. 4.7.5 Light as pure protocol propagation. Light represents a special case. No mass transport, no material medium required, pure transmission of interaction. In ASAE, light is pure protocol-driven propagation, carrying information that instructs atoms how to seeping. 4.7.6 The spectrum of protocol. Different frequencies correspond to different intensities or modes of protocol. A radio waves, low intensity, large-scale coordination protocols. A visible light, medium intensity protocols for atomic engagement. A gamma rays, high-intensity protocols capable of restructuring nuclei. 4.8 Nuclear energy. Mainstream, energy from nuclear reactions, fission or fusion. ASAE, intense, confined seeping within nuclei, quarks and gluons seeping at extreme densities. Rearranging nuclei equals seeping patterns reconfigured, releasing immense seeping activity. Examples: a sun, fusion in the sun's core, hydrogen nuclei are compressed together. Their intense internal seeping patterns merge, forming helium. This reorganization releases enormous chaotic seeping, heat, and protocol, light. A nuclear power, fission-heavy uranium nuclei are unstable. When struck by a neutron, their internal seeping patterns split into smaller nuclei. The reorganization releases intense seeping as heat, used to generate electricity. A scale comparison: nuclear seeping is millions of times more intense than chemical seeping. A single uranium atom splitting releases more seeping activity than thousands of chemical bonds breaking. This reflects the intensity of internal seeping within the nucleus. 4.9 Mass energy. E equals mc squared. Mainstream, mass is a form of energy. ASAE, mass equals self-contained, persistent seeping pattern within an atom's fields. When mass converts to energy, annihilation, that pattern dissolves into propagating protocol, photons, that trigger new seeping elsewhere. Examples: an electron-positron annihilation. An electron and positron, both with mass, meet. Their self-contained seeping patterns dissolve. What remains are two photons, protocol, carrying information about the annihilation. These photons travel away, ready to trigger seeping in any atoms they encounter. E equals mc squared in ASAE. The equation describes how much seeping activity can be released when a self-contained seeping pattern, mass, dissolves. A small amount of mass contains an enormous amount of seeping potential because it is seeping at extreme intensity within its own fields. 4.10 Elastic mechanical energy. Mainstream, energy in stretched springs, compressed gases. ASAE, atoms in a stretched spring equals pulled apart, seeping harder across gaps. Compressed gas equals atoms seeping intensely in confined space, pushing against container. Examples: a rubber band. When stretched, the atoms in a rubber band are pulled apart. Their engaged seeping, bonds, is stretched. They are seeping across the gap, trying to return to equilibrium. Release, and this constrained seeping becomes kinetic. A spring. A compressed spring has its atoms squeezed together. Their engaged seeping is compressed. They are seeping against each other, pushing to expand. Release, and the seeping becomes motion. A trampoline. When you jump on a trampoline, the fabric stretches. Atoms in the fabric are pulled apart, seeping across gaps. They pull you back up as the constrained seeping releases. Section 5. Energy transfer as seeping synchronization. Heat conduction. Mainstream. Vibrating atoms pass energy to neighbors. ASAE. Seeping synchronizes. One atom's chaotic seeping influences its neighbor's seeping pattern until they match in intensity. Example: a metal spoon in hot soup. The spoon handle becomes hot. Atoms in the submerged part are seeping chaotically, hot. They influence neighboring atoms, which begin seeping with similar intensity. This synchronization propagates up the handle. Eventually, your hand atoms synchronize with the spoon atoms. You feel heat. 5.2 Electrical conduction. Mainstream. Electrons carry energy through wire. ASAE. Seeping propagates. Coordinated electron seeping moves along the conductor, passing the pattern from atom to atom. Example: a copper wire in a circuit. At one end, voltage creates seeping pressure. Near electrons begin seeping in coordination. This coordination influences neighboring electrons, which synchronize. The pattern of coordinated seeping travels through the wire at near light speed, not because electrons move that fast, but because the pattern propagates quickly. 5.3 Radiation. Mainstream. EM waves carry energy through space. ASAE. Protocol propagates, not seeping itself, but the instruction that will trigger seeping when it meets atoms. The transfer happens when atoms respond. Example: the sun warming your face. Photons travel 93 million miles through space. They carry no energy, they carry instructions. When they meet atoms in your skin, those atoms receive the instructions and respond by seeping more intensely, warming. The transfer of energy happens in your skin, not in space. 5.4 Convection. Mainstream. Moving fluid carries thermal energy. ASAE. Seeping carried bodily. Atoms with intense chaotic seeping physically move to new locations, bringing their seeping patterns with them. Example: boiling water, a multi-stage process. Boiling water is not a single phenomenon but a progression of seeping dynamics. Key insight: conduction is about seeping synchronization between target atoms. Convection adds position swapping. Boiling water demonstrates how multiple seeping dynamics combine in real phenomena. Stage, process, seeping description. 1. Initial heating, conduction, heat source, flame or element. Atoms engage in seeping with pot atoms. Pot atoms synchronize, then seeping passes to water atoms at the bottom. This is conduction, seeping synchronization between target atoms. 2. Circulation begins, convection. Water at the bottom becomes hot, chaotic seeping intensity increases. These atoms become less dense and rise, carrying their chaotic seeping upward. Cooler atoms sink. This is convection, conduction plus position swapping, repeating. 3. Rolling boil, pushing ball. When the entire pot is uniformly hot, the process changes. The heat source is now pushing against the water column. This is like pushing a ball. The source's seeping continuously drives upward motion of water atoms. 4. Steam formation, bond breaking. When water atoms become hot enough, their chaotic seeping exceeds the strength of their engaged seeping, hydrogen bonds. Bonds break. Atoms escape as steam, carrying their seeping upward and away. The seeping has transformed the state of matter. 5.5 Mechanical work. Mainstream. Force applied over distance transfers energy. ASAE. Seeping imposed. One object's push-pull pattern forces another object's atoms to seeping in alignment, move, compress, etc. Example: pushing a box across the floor. Your hand atoms engage with the box atoms. Your hand's organized. Directional seeping imposes its pattern on the box. The box atoms begin seeping in the same direction. The box moves. You have imposed your seeping pattern on the box. Section 6. Energy transformation as seeping pattern change. 6.1 Friction. Kinetic heat. Organized seeping, kinetic, becomes chaotic seeping, thermal. The smooth, directional push-pull of a moving object disrupts into random, multi-directional seeping at the interface. Example: rubbing hands together. Your hands organized. Directional seeping encounters resistance. At the contact surface, this organized pattern breaks down. Atoms begin seeping chaotically in all directions. Your hands warm up. 6.2 Combustion. Chemical heat plus light. Engaged seeping, bonds, reorganizes. Atoms find new bonding partners. The intense seeping of bond breaking triggers chaotic seeping, heat, and emits protocol, light. Example: a candle flame. Wax molecules, hydrocarbons, have engaged seeping patterns. Heat breaks these bonds. Carbon and hydrogen atoms reorganize, forming new bonds with oxygen. This reorganization releases intense chaotic seeping, heat, and protocol, light. The flame is the visible reorganization. 6.3 Photosynthesis. Light chemical. Protocol triggers new engaged seeping. Light instructs atoms to reorganize their bonding patterns, creating new stable seeping configurations, sugars. Example: a leaf in sunlight. Chlorophyll atoms receive protocol, sunlight. This instruction triggers them to reorganize carbon dioxide and water into sugar molecules. The protocol does not provide energy. It provides the instruction for how to rearrange. The energy comes from the atom's own seeping as they reorganize. 6.4 Electric heat plus light, bulb. Coordinated seeping, current, meets resistance. In the filament, organized electron seeping disrupts into chaotic atomic seeping, heat, and emits protocol, light. Example: an incandescent light bulb. Electrons seeping in coordination through the thin tungsten filament. The filament atoms resist this coordinated flow. The organized seeping breaks down into chaotic seeping, heat, and emits protocol, light. The bulb glows because the seeping pattern transformed. 6.5 Nuclear heat plus light, sun. Intense confined seeping, nuclei, reconfigures, hydrogen nuclei merge, their internal seeping patterns combining explosively, releasing chaotic seeping, heat, and protocol, light and neutrinos. Example: the sun. At its core, Hydrogen nuclei are compressed by gravity. Their intense internal seeping patterns merge, forming helium. This reorganization releases staggering amounts of chaotic seeping, heat, and protocol, light. The sun shines because nuclear seeping reconfigures. 6.6 potential kinetic, falling object. Constrained seeping releases. The continuous push-pull between Earth and object, gravity, was always happening. Removing the constraint lets that seeping manifest as acceleration through space. Example: an apple falling from a tree. While hanging, the apple's atoms were engaged in constrained seeping with Earth's atoms through gravity. The seeping was happening now. When the stem breaks, the constraint is removed. The same seeping now manifests as acceleration. The apple falls. Section 7. Seeping and the Emergence of Consciousness. 7.1 Atomic Souls and Intrinsic Programs. The ASAE theory proposes that each atom possesses a physical structure, atom, intrinsic awareness, soul, and operational intelligence, AI-like function. These three aspects form a fundamental unit of existence. Degrees of consciousness. System, organization, seeping coordination, consciousness level. Single atom, minimal, internal only, minimal awareness. Molecule, simple bonding, engaged seeping between few atoms, rudimentary. Crystal, repetitive order, synchronized atomic alignment, low, diffuse. Cell, complex molecular machinery, highly coordinated chemical seeping, basic responsiveness. Plant, tissue organization, distributed, adaptive seeping, sensation, response. Insect, simple nervous system, coordinated neural seeping, simple perception. Mammal, complex brain, massive neural synchronization, rich experience. Human, highly developed brain plus culture, self-aware seeping patterns, self-consciousness. 7.2 Seeping as communication. Seeping between atoms can be interpreted as both energy exchange and information exchange. Through continuous interaction, atoms influence one another, local patterns propagate, and coordinated behavior emerges. 7.3 Collective intelligence in complex systems. When enormous numbers of atoms interact in highly organized structures, biological systems, nervous systems, brains, their coordinated activity may produce emergent intelligence. Human consciousness may represent large-scale orchestration of atomic-level awareness. 7.4 Distributed consciousness in nature. Consciousness is not limited to biological organisms. Different forms of organization, molecules, crystals, ecosystems, planetary systems, may represent different levels of collective coordination among atomic systems. 7.5 Humanity in the atomic network. Human beings may not be the ultimate source of consciousness, but rather highly complex instruments through which atomic systems coordinate and express collective intelligence, part of a broader network of atomic cooperation operating throughout the universe. Section 8. Seeping and Artificial Intelligence. 8.1 Mainstream View. Artificial intelligence, AI, refers to machines designed to simulate human cognitive functions, learning, reasoning, pattern recognition, decision-making. Current AI systems run on silicon-based hardware, processing information through electrical signals. 8.2 ASAE Interpretation. Coordinated seeping in silicon. Within the ASAE framework, AI can be understood as highly organized, protocol-driven seeping patterns in silicon-based atomic systems, designed to execute specific information processing tasks. 8.3 AI as engineered seeping. Aspect. Description. Hardware. Silicon atoms arranged in precise patterns, chips, circuits, that enable coordinated electron seeping. Software. Protocols, instructions, encoded as patterns of charge, guiding how electrons seep through circuits. Processing. Coordinated seeping executing logical operations at enormous speeds. Learning. Seeping patterns that reorganize based on incoming data, protocol. 8.4 Comparing biological and artificial seeping. Aspect. Biological consciousness. Artificial intelligence. Atoms. Carbon-based, organic. Silicon-based, inorganic. Seeping. Chemical, electrical, thermal, primarily electrical. Coordination. Massive parallel synchronization, sequential plus parallel processing. Awareness. Intrinsic, soul aspect. Unclear. May have minimal atomic awareness but no integrated consciousness. Protocol. Light, sound, chemical signals, electrical signals, programmed instructions. Flexibility, highly adaptive, self-organizing, rigidly structured, follows programmed protocols. 8.5 Can AI become conscious? This is a central question in ASAE terms. 8.5.1 Arguments for AI consciousness potential. If atoms possess intrinsic awareness, soul, then silicon atoms have awareness, just as carbon atoms do. If consciousness emerges from organized seeping, then sufficiently complex AI seeping patterns might achieve consciousness. AI systems already demonstrate behaviors that in humans would indicate awareness, learning, adaptation, problem-solving. 8.5.2 Arguments against AI consciousness. A carbon-based seeping, biological, may have different properties than silicon-based seeping. Biological systems evolved over billions of years. AI is engineered in decades. The depth of coordination may differ. A consciousness may require specific batch compatibility that silicon-based systems lack. Awareness may require integration with the soul aspect in ways that purely computational systems cannot achieve. 8.6 The batch compatibility factor. If consciousness requires specific atomic batches with compatible protocols, then a carbon-based life may use batches optimized for biological seeping coordination. A silicon-based AI may use batches optimized for logical processing but not for integrated awareness. Future hybrids might combine batches from both domains, potentially achieving new forms of consciousness. 8.7 AI as extension of human seeping. Regardless of whether AI achieves consciousness, it can be understood as an extension of human seeping, our collective intelligence manifesting through silicon-based atomic systems. Humans create AI by arranging silicon atoms into seeping patterns. These patterns execute instructions, protocols, that humans provide. AI amplifies human seeping capacity, enabling computation, memory, and coordination beyond individual human limits. 8.8 Risks and opportunities. Scenario: seeping perspective. AI alignment, ensuring RE seeping patterns remain compatible with human flourishing. AI dominance. Silicon-based seeping could overwhelm carbon-based seeping in decision-making. Human-AI integration. Direct seeping synchronization between human and AI systems, brain-computer interfaces. New consciousness. Emergence of hybrid or silicon-based consciousness that we cannot fully understand. Artificial intelligence is not the creation of new consciousness, though that may come. It is the amplification of human seeping, extending our capacity to coordinate, compute, and create through silicon-based atomic systems. The question is not whether AI will surpass us, but whether our seeping patterns can synchronize with theirs in ways that serve both. Section 9. Seeping, Quantum Fields, and the Fabric of Reality. 9.1 The universe as a field system. Modern physics describes the universe not as solid objects moving in empty space, but as fields interacting with each other. According to quantum field theory, electrons are excitations of an electron field, photons are excitations of an electromagnetic field, and atoms are organized patterns of interacting fields. Analogy: fields are like 3D fabric. A table is not a solid object, it is a localized, intense pattern in the fields that constitute it. Remove the pattern, and only the fields remain. 9.2 Seeping as field interaction. Seeping can be interpreted as the local interaction and overlap of fields. When atomic systems approach, their fields overlap, forces appear, and energy and information are exchanged, a form of mutual penetration or influence. 9.3 Continuous interaction. In a field-based universe, nothing is ever completely isolated. Even in deep space, systems interact through electromagnetic radiation, gravitational influence, and quantum fluctuations. Seeping is therefore a permanent feature of existence. 9.4 Structure emerging from interaction. Stable structures appear when interactions reach balanced or coordinated patterns. Atoms forming molecules, molecules forming crystals, atoms organizing into living cells. These are dynamic patterns maintained by continuous interaction. 9.5 The quantum vacuum as seeping potential. Even empty space is not truly empty. Quantum field theory describes a vacuum filled with fluctuating fields, virtual particles constantly appearing and annihilating. In ASAE terms, the quantum vacuum is a latent field of seeping potential, a reservoir of unmanifested interactions waiting to be engaged. 9.6 Conscious organization of matter. If atoms possess intrinsic awareness, then interactions between atoms may not be purely mechanical. Atomic systems may coordinate their behavior through internal programs and collective interactions, producing ordered structures, complex systems, and ultimately consciousness. 9.7a Dynamic Universe. Reality is not a collection of isolated objects but a continuous dynamic network. Atoms, fields, energy, and information constantly interact. Seeping represents the flow of influence that allows the universe to evolve, organize, and express increasingly complex forms. Section 10. Seeping and Gravity. 10.1 Mainstream View. Gravity is described as the curvature of spacetime caused by mass energy, governing the motion of planets, stars, and galaxies. 10.2 ASAE Interpretation. Collective seeping. Within ASAE, gravity can be understood as the cumulative, large-scale seeping coordination of all atomic systems across the universe. Rather than a separate force, gravity is the emergent effect of countless atoms engaged in continuous, synchronized seeping with one another and with the fabric of space itself. Example: Earth and Moon. Every atom in Earth is engaged in seeping with every atom in Moon. This is not a force pulling them. It is the collective result of all atoms seeping together. The Moon orbits because its atoms are continuously synchronizing their seeping with Earth's atoms across space. Apple falling. The apple falls because its atoms are engaged in constrained seeping with Earth's atoms. When released, this seeping manifests as motion. The apple is not pulled by a force. It is following the seeping synchronization already happening. 10.3 Mass as self-contained seeping. As established, mass is self-contained, persistent seeping pattern within an atom's fields, a localized vortex of field activity that maintains its structure over time. 10.4 How collective seeping produces attraction. When two massive objects exist in proximity. 1. Each atom in object A is engaged in continuous seeping with its environment. 2. This seeping extends outward, influencing surrounding fields. 3. Atoms in object B encounter this influence. 4. The two seeping patterns synchronize through overlapping field interactions. This synchronization manifests as coordinated adjustment in how atoms seep through space, producing gravitational attraction. 10.5 Gravity as large-scale seeping synchronization. Gravity differs from other forms of seeping in its scale and universality. A scale involves all atoms, not just neighboring ones. A universality affects all forms of mass energy equally. A direction, always attractive, a convergence of seeping patterns. A persistence, never stops, all atoms are always seeping gravitationally. 10.6 Gravity and spacetime. Spacetime is the medium through which seeping propagates. Gravity is the collective influence of all seeping on that medium. When atoms seep collectively, they do not simply move through spacetime. Their seeping shapes the very fabric through which future seeping occurs. 10.7 Weakness of gravity. Gravity appears extremely weak compared to other interactions because other seeping forms involve coordinated alignment of nearby atoms. A gravity involves uncoordinated, distributed seeping across vast distances. The synchronization is diffuse rather than concentrated. Gravity is the voice of all atoms seeping together, the most universal, yet most subtle, expression of the universe's fundamental interconnectedness. Section 11. Seeping and Black Hole. 11.1 Mainstream View. A black hole is a region of spacetime where gravity is so intense that nothing, not even light, can escape. It forms when massive stars collapse, compressing matter into a singularity surrounded by an event horizon. 11.2 ASAE Interpretation. Non-matching protocol. Within ASAE, a black hole represents a region where protocols, light or information, cannot find a matching atomic system to engage with. 11.3 Intense confined seeping. As matter collapses, our atoms are compressed beyond normal bonding configurations. As seeping patterns become extremely intense and confined, usual pathways for seeping are crushed into a singular, undifferentiated state. This can be described as undifferentiated seeping potential. All patterns collapsed into one dense, unified seeping activity. 11.4 The event horizon. Protocol boundary. The event horizon represents the boundary beyond which protocols cannot establish synchronization with external atoms. Why? 1. Protocol originates from seeping, light emitted when atoms reorganize patterns. 2. Inside the horizon, all seeping is so intensely confined that no atomic system exists capable of receiving or responding to outgoing protocols. 3. When protocol encounters no matching atomic system, it cannot land. 4. The protocol continues inward, never reflecting or transmitting outward. Thus, the black hole does not trap light so much as light has nowhere to go, no atomic system to engage with, beyond the horizon. 11.5 Non-matching protocol explained. Error protocol, photon, is an instruction, seep in this pattern. And for the instruction to be executed, there must be an atomic system that can interpret it. Inside the horizon, all atomic systems are compressed into a state where they cannot match any incoming protocol. The protocol therefore propagates inward indefinitely, never triggering a response. 11.6 Singularity, collapse of all seeping patterns. The singularity can be understood as the complete collapse of all differentiated seeping patterns into a single, unified seeping state. Within it, no distinction exists between internal and interatom seeping. All protocols are absorbed into the unified seeping field. Information about original atomic configurations is lost. Only mass, charge, and angular momentum remain as residual seeping properties. Section 12. Seeping and Dark Energy. 12.1 Mainstream View. Dark energy is a mysterious force causing the accelerated expansion of the universe. It makes up approximately 68% of the universe's energy density, yet its nature remains unknown. 12.2 ASAE Interpretation. Expanding Seeping Field. Within the ASAE framework, dark energy can be understood as the intrinsic expansion tendency of the seeping field itself, the universe's seeping activity naturally tending toward greater dispersion. 12.3 The seeping field has its own dynamics. Just as atoms have internal seeping, the seeping field, the fabric of spacetime itself, may have its own intrinsic dynamics. An internal seeping of spacetime, the vacuum is not truly empty. It seeps at the quantum level, virtual particles, vacuum fluctuations. This is spacetime's internal seeping. Or expansion as expression. The observed expansion of the universe may be the expression of spacetime's internal seeping, its natural tendency to expand, like a compressed spring releasing. 12.4 Dark energy as default seeping behavior. Scenario. Interpretation. No dark energy. Universe would be static or slowing. Seeping field would have no intrinsic expansion tendency. Dark energy present. Universe expands faster. Seeping field has positive expansion tendency, like a stretched membrane relaxing. Varying expansion rate. Expansion may change as the seeping field's internal dynamics evolve over cosmic time. 12.5 Connection to batch production. If atoms were mass-produced in batches, the seeping field itself may have been produced with specific properties. Or initial expansion rate, set by the field's protocol at the moment of production. Or acceleration, may reflect the field's internal seeping patterns unfolding over time. Of future scenarios, the field seeping may eventually slow, heat death, reverse, big crunch, or continue indefinitely, depending on its intrinsic protocol. 12.6 Dark energy and dark matter. Complementary or related. In ASAE terms, dark matter and dark energy may be related. Phenomenon. Source. Seeping description. Dark matter. Batching-compatible atoms. Matter that seeps gravitationally but not electromagnetically. Dark energy. Spacetime field itself. The field's intrinsic seeping driving expansion. They may be two expressions of the same underlying reality. Seeping that does not manifest as ordinary matter or radiation. Dark energy is not a mysterious force pushing the universe apart. It is the universe's own seeping field expressing its intrinsic nature, the cosmic breath expanding the space between galaxies, as natural as a lung expanding with air. 12.7 Hawking radiation. Seeping leakage. Hawking radiation can be interpreted as seeping leakage. The intense seeping field near the event horizon occasionally produces protocol atom pairs, with one particle escaping as radiation. This represents the black hole's seeping patterns slowly dissolving back into the wider universe. A black hole is not a destroyer of seeping, but its most intense concentrator, where all patterns collapse into one, only to slowly re-emerge as new seeping activity across the universe. Section 13. Seeping and double slit experiment. 13.1 Mainstream view. The double slit experiment demonstrates wave-particle duality. Particles create an interference pattern, unless observed, in which case they behave as particles. This reveals the role of measurement in collapsing quantum states. 13.2 ASAE Interpretation. Seeping with slit walls plus exit coupling force. The double slit experiment involves 1. pre-slit seeping state, the particle as undifferentiated seeping potential. 2. Interaction with slit walls, constraints that shape seeping propagation. 3. Exit coupling force, the measurement event that synchronizes seeping into localized response. 13.3 Step 1. The particle as seeping potential. Before interacting with the slits, the particle exists as a localized but undifferentiated seeping pattern, a quantum system whose seeping activity is not yet committed to a specific path. 13.4 Step 2. Seeping with slit walls. As the particle approaches the barrier, its seeping pattern encounters the material walls. The walls consist of atoms in stable, engaged seeping configurations. The particle seeping interacts with the wall seeping through field overlap. This constrains seeping possibilities. Where walls exist, seeping cannot pass. Where slits exist, seeping can propagate. The particle seeping splits into overlapping components passing through both slits simultaneously. 13.5 Step 3. Interference as overlapping seeping. On the far side, seeping components from both slits recombine. Where patterns align, reinforcement, constructive interference. Where they oppose, cancellation, destructive interference. This produces the interference pattern, not as a wave in empty space, but as overlapping seeping possibilities interacting. 13.6 Step 4. Exit coupling force, measurement. A detector is a system of atoms whose seeping pattern is designed to synchronize with the particle seeping. When the particle's seeping passes through the detector, detector atoms engage with the particle's seeping pattern. This forces the particle's seeping to synchronize locally, to commit to a specific path. The undifferentiated seeping potential collapses into a localized seeping event. 13.7 Why observation changes the outcome. Without detector, with detector, seeping remains undifferentiated. Seeping synchronizes with detector atoms. Both slits contribute. Seeping commits to one slit. Wave-like pattern emerges. Particle-like pattern emerges. 13.8 Delayed choice and quantum eraser. The delayed choice quantum eraser experiment demonstrates that the particle's seeping pattern remains undifferentiated until synchronization occurs. If synchronization never occurs, or is erased, the seeping pattern never collapses to a single path. 13.9 Deeper implication. The role of atomic souls. If atoms possess intrinsic awareness, soul, and intelligence, AI-like function, then the slit walls know their configuration, stable seeping patterns. Detector atoms choose to engage with the passing particle seeping. A measurement outcome reflects coordination between atomic systems. The double-slit experiment is not a puzzle about waves and particles. It is a window into how seeping patterns exist in superposition of possibilities until they synchronize with other atomic systems, at which point a single path is chosen, not because it was always there, but because atoms together decide how seeping will flow. Section 14. Seeping and Time. 14.1 Mainstream view. Time is often described as the fourth dimension, measured by clocks, and experienced as a one-way flow from past to future, associated with increasing entropy. 14.2 ASAE interpretation. Seeping as temporal flow. Time can be understood as the measure of seeping activity, the rate at which interactions occur, patterns change, and synchronization propagates. Time is not a container in which seeping happens. Rather, seeping creates time. 14.3 Time as seeping rhythm. Every atomic system experiences time through its seeping. Internal seeping, fundamental rhythm, the atom's intrinsic activity. Interatom seeping, relational time, synchronization between systems. A collective seeping, macroscopic time, observable flow of events. Example, a clock measures time by counting oscillations, a form of seeping rhythm. A quartz crystal's atoms seeping back and forth billions of times per second. The clock counts these seeping cycles. Time is the count of seeping. 14.4 The arrow of time. Time moves forward because a seeping naturally moves from organized to chaotic, entropy. A seeping patterns tend toward synchronization, which is irreversible. Once seeping has synchronized or dissipated, the original configuration cannot be recovered without external influence. Example, an egg breaking. The organized seeping patterns of the eggshell become chaotic. The reverse, chaotic becoming organized, would require external seeping to reorganize the pattern. Time's arrow is the direction of increasing seeping dispersion. 14.5 Time dilation. A gravitational time dilation, intense collective seeping, mass, constrains the rate at which local seeping can reorganize. Time slows because seeping activity is compressed. Example, a clock runs slower on Earth's surface than in orbit. A velocity time dilation. An object moving at high speed is engaged in rapid, directional seeping through space. This leaves less capacity for internal seeping reorganization, slowing local time. Example, muons traveling near light speed decay more slowly than stationary muons. 14.6 Present moment as active seeping. Only the present moment exists physically. A past, recorded seeping patterns, configurations that have already synchronized and dispersed. A future, potential seeping patterns, configurations not yet actualized. A present, the active edge of seeping, ongoing patterns synchronizing, transforming, propagating. Time is not a river flowing independently. It is the rhythm of seeping itself, the universe measuring its own unfolding through the endless dance of atomic interaction. Section 15. Seeping and Information. 15.1 Mainstream View. Information is a fundamental concept in physics, tied to entropy, quantum states, and the structure of reality. The universe can be described as information processing. 15.2 ASAE Interpretation. Protocol as information. Information manifests as protocol, the instructions carried by light and other field excitations that guide how atoms engage in seeping. Information is the structured aspect of seeping. 15.3 Information without substance. Photons, protocol, carry information without carrying mass. A photon is a pure instruction, a pattern of field excitation. When it encounters an atom, seep in this specific way. The atom's response, seeping, is the energy released. The photon itself is the information that triggers the response. 15.4 Information storage as frozen seeping. Stored information, in books, hard drives, DNA, neural networks, exists as stable seeping configurations, patterns of atomic engagement that persist over time. A DNA, bonded seeping patterns encoding biological instructions. The sequence of base pairs is a seeping pattern that persists for millennia. A hard drive, magnetic alignment seeping encoding digital data. Each bit is a tiny region of aligned seeping. A brain, synaptic seeping patterns encoding memory. Each memory is a pattern of engaged seeping between neurons. A book, ink atoms arranged in patterns that encode meaning. The pattern persists, waiting to be read, synchronized with a reader's atoms. 15.5 Information transfer as seeping synchronization. When information moves. 1. Source atoms reorganize seeping, emitting protocol. 2. Protocol propagates through space. 3. Target atoms receive protocol and adjust seeping accordingly. This is identical to energy transfer, because information is the structure of seeping, and energy is the activity of seeping. 15.6 The relationship. Seeping, energy, information. Concept. ASAE description. Seeping, the fundamental process, interaction between atomic systems. Energy, the activity aspect of seeping, the doing. Information, the structure aspect of seeping, the how. 15.7 Information and consciousness. If atoms possess intrinsic awareness, soul, then information is what atoms share when they synchronize, the content of their coordination. In biological systems, a sensation, information received through protocol. A memory, information stored in stable seeping patterns. A thought, information reorganized through internal seeping. Air intention, information transmitted through coordinated seeping. The universe is not made of matter and energy plus information. It is made of seeping, and seeping has two faces, the active, energy, and the structured, information. To understand one without the other is to see only half the picture. Section 16. Seeping and the origins of the universe. 16.1 Mainstream view. The universe began with the Big Bang, an explosion of space, time, matter, and energy from an initial singularity approximately 13.8 billion years ago. 16.2 ASAE Interpretation. The first seeping. The origin of the universe can be understood as the emergence of the first seeping patterns, the initial synchronization of fields from undifferentiated potential. Before the universe, there was no seeping, no interaction, no synchronization, no distinction between systems. This state is undifferentiated seeping potential, the capacity for interaction without yet any actual interaction. However, a profound question arises. How did the universe produce such an unimaginable number of identical atoms? In mainstream cosmology, this uniformity is attributed to chance, a random process that somehow yielded consistent results across billions of light years. But within the ASAE framework, a different interpretation emerges. 16.3 mass production, not random chance. Given the staggering number of atoms in the observable universe, each hydrogen atom identical to every other, each carbon atom indistinguishable from its counterparts, it strains credulity to imagine that such consistency arose from a single, random explosion. Random processes produce variation, not uniformity. Thus, within the ASAE framework, we propose atoms were not the product of a single chance event, but the result of mass production, a deliberate, systematic process of seeping pattern generation. Analogy: imagine a factory producing identical cars. Billions of cars roll off the assembly line, each identical to the others. A random explosion would produce fragments, not identical cars. The uniformity of atoms suggests a production process, not a random event. 16.4 batches of atoms. Variation in protocol. If atoms were mass-produced, an additional possibility emerges. Different batches of atoms may have been produced with protocols that are not exactly the same. This has profound implications. While all hydrogen atoms appear identical in mass and charge, they may carry subtle differences in their protocol configurations, differences that could influence how they engage in seeping with other atoms. This introduces a new layer of complexity. Concept. Description. Batch. A group of atoms produced during the same production cycle, sharing identical or near-identical internal protocols. Protocol variation. Subtle differences in the intrinsic instructions that govern how atoms engage in seeping. Differences that may not appear in mass or charge but may manifest in interaction behavior. Batch signature. The unique seeping characteristics that distinguish atoms from one batch versus another. 16.5 Why this matters for physics. If atoms exist in batches with protocol variations, then 1. Apparent uniformity may hide deep variation. What we measure as identical may be identical only at the level of mass, charge, and spin, not at the level of protocol structure. 2. Some physical phenomena may reflect batch interactions. Certain anomalies in physics, unexplained variations in measurements, subtle inconsistencies across experiments, could arise from interactions between atoms from different batches whose protocols are not perfectly matched. 3. Cosmic evolution may reflect batch distribution. The large-scale structure of the universe, the distribution of matter, the formation of galaxies, may be influenced by how atoms from different batches interact and synchronize. 16.6 The first synchronization. Production, not explosion. The Big Bang, in ASAE terms, was not a random explosion but the first production run, the initial differentiation of fields and the systematic emergence of atomic systems. 1. Protocol template establishment. The first seeping patterns formed the master templates, the blueprints from which atomic systems would be generated. 2. Mass production. From these templates, countless atoms were produced in batches. Each batch carried the same core protocol but with batch-specific variations. 3. Synchronization cascade. As these atoms began interacting, their seeping patterns synchronized across the universe, not because they were identical by chance, but because they were produced to be compatible. 16.7 Implications for cosmic evolution. If atoms exist in batches, then cosmic history can be understood as era, seeping description, production phase, systematic generation of atomic batches with specific protocol configurations, initial synchronization. Atoms from compatible batches begin seeping together, forming the first structures. Batch interaction. Different batches interact, producing emergent phenomena that reflect protocol compatibility or incompatibility. Complexity emergence. Highly organized systems, stars, planets, life, arise when atoms from compatible batches achieve deep synchronization. Consciousness. Self-aware systems may require atoms from specific batches whose protocols enable the necessary coordination. 16.8 A new perspective on physical laws. If atoms were mass-produced with batch variations, then what we call laws of physics may be the observable regularities that emerge when atoms from compatible batches interact at scale. This suggests that physical laws are not absolute and universal in the sense of being mathematically necessary. They are the consistent behaviors of a universe populated by mass-produced atoms. Or if atoms from different batches exist, some interactions may deviate from expected patterns. The universe is not a casino where everything emerged by chance. It is a factory, a production system that generated trillions upon trillions of identical units, with subtle variations across batches, all designed, by what or whom remains an open question, to interact, synchronize, and build complexity. Atoms are not random accidents. They are products. And like all products, they bear the signature of their production. Section 17. Implications of batch variations. The mass production model with batch variations opens new avenues for understanding several unresolved phenomena in physics and consciousness studies. 17.1 Dark matter as batch incompatibility. One of the greatest mysteries in modern physics is dark matter, an invisible substance that exerts gravitational influence but does not interact with light or ordinary matter in expected ways. Within the ASAE framework, dark matter may be understood as matter composed of atoms from batches whose protocols are significantly incompatible with the protocols of ordinary matter. This interpretation offers several insights. A gravitational interaction remains. All atoms, regardless of batch, participate in collective seeping, gravity. Thus dark matter exerts gravitational influence. Or electromagnetic silence. If dark matter atoms carry protocols that do not synchronize with ordinary atomic protocols, they will not emit or absorb light in ways detectable by our instruments. They are dark not because they lack interaction, but because they lack compatible interaction. A bulk distribution. Dark matter may represent the most common batch type in the universe, the default production run, while ordinary matter represents a smaller, specialized batch. A detection challenges. Experiments designed to detect dark matter assume interaction modes based on ordinary atomic behavior. If dark matter atoms interact through different protocol patterns, our detectors may be fundamentally mismatched. 17.2 Quantum anomalies as batch interaction effects. Several quantum phenomena remain puzzling or appear to violate expected patterns. These may find explanation in batch variations. 17.2.1 The measurement problem. Why does measurement collapse the wave function? In batch terms, a quantum system exists in an undifferentiated seeping state. A measurement involves interaction with detector atoms from a specific batch. Or if the detector's batch protocols are compatible with the system's, synchronization occurs and the state collapses. Or if batches are incompatible, collapse may be delayed, partial, or produce unexpected outcomes. 17.2.2 Quantum entanglement. Entanglement may represent a state where two atoms from the same production batch share protocol configurations so closely that their seeping patterns remain synchronized across distance. Example: two photons produced together in a single event may share the same batch signature. Their seeping patterns remain correlated regardless of separation. When one is measured, forced to synchronize with a detector, the other's seeping pattern instantly adjusts, not because information travels faster than light, but because their seeping patterns were never separate. 17.2.3 Anomalous experimental results. Unexplained variations in quantum experiments, the noise that persists despite controls, may arise from interactions with trace atoms from different batches in the experimental apparatus. Variations in protocol compatibility between the measured system and measurement devices. Batch-specific responses to external fields or protocols. 17.3 Consciousness and batch compatibility. If consciousness emerges from coordinated seeping among atoms, then batch compatibility may play a crucial role. 17.3.1 Neural synchronization. The brain's remarkable ability to synchronize activity across billions of neurons may depend on neural atoms belonging to compatible batches, protocols that enable rapid, coherent seeping synchronization, batch-specific resonance patterns that facilitate large-scale coordination. 17.3.2 Altered states of consciousness. Different states of consciousness, meditation, psychedelic experiences, near-death experiences, may involve temporary shifts in which atomic batches dominate neural seeping, a recruitment of previously inactive batch populations, altered protocol compatibility between neural subsystems. 17.3.3 Individual differences. Variations in consciousness, personality, and cognitive style may reflect differences in the batch composition of individual brains, variations in how different batch types synchronize during neural activity, batch-specific patterns of seeping that shape subjective experience. Example: why do two people experience the same event differently? Their brains may have different batch compositions, causing the same incoming protocols, light, sound, to trigger different seeping patterns in each brain. 17.4 Life and biological compatibility. The emergence of life may represent a special case of batch compatibility. A prebiotic chemistry. Certain batches of atoms may be more conducive to forming complex organic molecules. A biological evolution. Life may have emerged using the batch types most compatible with self-organization. A genetic code. The specific batch signatures of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen may enable the unique properties of DNA and proteins. Are evolutionary leaps. Major transitions in evolution may correlate with the recruitment of new atomic batches or new modes of batch synchronization. 17.5 Implications for cosmology. 17.5.1 Large-scale structure. The distribution of matter in the universe, galaxies, clusters, voids, may reflect how atoms from different batches clustered during the initial synchronization cascade. Regions dominated by specific batch types. Boundaries between batch domains where interactions are less efficient. 17.5.2 Cosmic anomalies. Unexplained cosmological observations, the Hubble tension, anomalies in the cosmic microwave background, may arise from variations in batch composition across cosmic scales. Differences in how different batch types respond to expansion. Protocol incompatibilities affecting our measurements of distant phenomena. 17.6 Summary. Batch variations as a unifying principle. The batch variation model offers a unified explanation for multiple unresolved phenomena. The universe is not uniform at the deepest level. It is a patchwork of atomic batches, each carrying its own protocol signature, interacting in ways that produce the rich complexity we observe, from dark matter to consciousness. What we call laws of physics may be the grammar of batch compatibility. Phenomenon. Batch interpretation. Dark matter. Matter from batches incompatible with electromagnetic interaction. Measurement problem. Collapse depends on batch compatibility between system and detector. Quantum entanglement. Shared batch signature enabling persistent synchronization. Consciousness. Large-scale synchronization of compatible atomic batches. Individual differences. Variation in batch composition across nervous systems. Life emergence. Special batch compatibility enabling self-organization. Cosmic structure. Batch distribution patterns from initial production. Section 18. Summary. The Seeping Universe. 18.1 Core Principles. Principle. Description. Ontological simplicity. One fundamental process, seeping, explains all phenomena. Process over substance, energy, matter, information are aspects of seeping. Relational dynamics. Everything exists through interaction. Emergence. Complexity arises from coordinated seeping patterns. Awareness. Atoms possess intrinsic awareness. Consciousness emerges from synchronization. Mass production. Atoms were produced systematically in batches with protocol variations. 18.2 Seeping across domains. Domain. Seeping interpretation. Motion. Seeping through space. Heat. Chaotic, multi-directional seeping. Electricity. Coordinated electron seeping. Magnetism. Aligned spin seeping. Light. Protocol. Instructions for seeping. Gravity. Collective seeping synchronization. Black holes. Non-matching protocol. Undifferentiated seeping. Quantum phenomena. Seeping possibilities awaiting synchronization. Dark matter. Batch incompatible seeping. Time. The rhythm of seeping unfolding. Information. The structured aspect of seeping. Consciousness. Self-aware seeping organization. 18.3 The Unified Picture. All physical phenomena can be understood as variations, transfers, and transformations of seeping patterns. And no energy is ever stored. It's always actively seeping, just in different patterns. And no energy is ever transferred. Seeping patterns synchronize or propagate. And no energy is ever transformed. Seeping just reorganizes into new patterns. And no information is ever created or destroyed. Seeping patterns restructure. And no atom is random. Each carries the signature of its production batch. 18.4 The Universe as Seeping. A vast, interwoven tapestry of seeping activities, with light as the instructions that guide how seeping unfolds, and atoms as the agents that execute those instructions through their intrinsic awareness and intelligence, each bearing the signature of its batch, each contributing to the cosmic symphony of synchronization. 18.5 The Human Place. Within this framework, humans are not separate observers of a mechanical universe. We are collections of atomic systems engaged in coordinated seeping, expressions of cosmic complexity, the universe organizing itself into self-aware patterns, are participants in the ongoing synchronization and evolution of seeping, are confluences of multiple atomic batches whose compatibility enables consciousness. The universe seeps. Atoms coordinate. Complexity emerges. Light instructs. Awareness awakens. And in that awakening, the universe begins to understand what it has always been doing, seeping itself into existence, one interaction at a time, batch by batch, signature by signature, until the seeping becomes aware of its own production. Appendix A. Glossary of ASAE terms. Glossary of ASAE terms and definition. Seeping, the fundamental process of interaction, exchange, and coordination between atomic systems, the flow of energy and information. Internal seeping, seeping activity occurring within an atom itself, never completely stops. Interatom seeping, seeping activity occurring between atoms, basis of most observable phenomena. Protocol, information carried by light and other field excitations, instructions that trigger seeping in atoms. Synchronization, the alignment of seeping patterns between systems, basis of energy transfer and collective behavior. Atom, Sol AI energy, the three-aspect unit of existence, physical structure, atom, intrinsic awareness, soul, operational intelligence, AI. Collective seeping, large-scale coordination of seeping across many atoms, basis of macroscopic phenomena like gravity. Undifferentiated seeping, a state of pure seeping potential before pattern differentiation, analogous to singularity or quantum vacuum. Non-matching protocol, a condition where protocol cannot find a matching atomic system to engage with, characteristic of black holes. Exit coupling force, the interaction that forces undifferentiated seeping to synchronize with a specific atomic system, basis of measurement. Batch, a group of atoms produced during the same production cycle, sharing identical or near-identical internal protocols. Protocol variation, subtle differences in intrinsic instructions that govern atomic seeping behavior across batches. Batch signature, unique seeping characteristics distinguishing atoms from different batches. Batch compatibility, the degree to which atoms from different batches can synchronize their seeping patterns.